Greetings, loyalists and heretics. Welcome to Iron and Ceramite, where we once again enter the war without an astropath.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Iron and Ceramite podcast. Today I'm joined by Glenn.
Hello.
Dave.
Hello.
John.
Hello.
And Tommy.
You all right, mate?
And as a change of pace, you'll notice that I'm introducing it today, and that's because today's topic is something that's close to John's heart. He's going to talk to us all about the Death Guard and try and make out all of the work that he's looked up on other people's lore channels as his own. And because of that, he didn't want just him talking the entire time, so I'm introducing him. And without further ado, we're going to hand over to John to talk us through all original research and works on Nurgle's favourite, the vegan warriors that are the Death Guard. Over to you, please, John.
So we've decided they're vegan, have we?
We have now, yes.
Okay. So, page 1, Codex. No, I have read some Codex. I've watched many YouTube videos, and I've done a bit of research. So, much in the vein of everybody else who's done it, we'll go through a bit of the origin of the Death Guard, and then we'll go from there. We'll see if I can talk long enough to fill up an hour. But yeah, so I covered it a little bit of this before in the previous podcast, but we'll go through it again. So Death Guard, the 14th Legion, and they weren't always as handsome as they now are. Like all the other Primarchs, Mortarion was whisked through the warp and dumped on a distant planet far away. Back on Terra, prior to becoming the Death Guard and during the Unification Wars, there was an army based in Albania. They were a fierce army, and they were able to actually contend quite well with the Emperor and his Thunder Warriors. There was a couple of different versions of how they became aligned to the Emperor. I saw like one of them said that the Emperor just outright defeated them, but instead of killing them outright, he respected them enough to take them on as his own loyal warriors and take them under his fold. And then another version said that the Dusk Raiders actually were set up with armor more resilient to what the Thunder Warriors had very early on. Had something like prototype dreadnoughts and were actually able to hold off quite major advances that the Emperor made. And eventually, because the Emperor is more of an overall tactician and warlord and quite well with politics and stuff, brokered a peace and actually managed to get them over to his cause, and eventually started recruiting them into like Astartes and stuff. Because obviously they were quite an old unit, like the Dusk Warriors. They had their own traditions, and the Emperor sort of let them keep these like their tactical warfare. So obviously, like they became quite ruthless. They were used to just go in, grind down the enemy, throw numbers down, and just keep pushing forwards. And the name the Dusk Raiders came due to like their signature move of waiting for it to get to dusk and then just overwhelming the enemy as the light was changing, so catching people off by surprise. And then originally, like they had their right arm was painted in a blood red to symbolize the fact that they were the Emperor's right hand and just outright ruthless killers. And obviously, the wars on Earth or Terra eventually finished, and the Emperor set his sights to the stars, and the Dusk Raiders eagerly went with him, slowly but surely pushing out through the solar system, and even without the need for the Emperor to be sort of with them, they carried on doing the good work, and they were one of the later legions to actually gain their Primarch, and they sort of adopted this sense of pride of having their own ways, their own means of doing stuff, their own traditions, and they actually had a really good reputation of just winning battles on their own merit without having this one single figurehead. so yeah, so that was sort of like their start and how they became obviously in with the Emperor. Meanwhile, Mortarion found himself on a heavily polluted and toxic planet called Barbarous, and it was sort of ruled over by this clans of mutant psycho alien warlords, who basically the higher up
Warlords.
Warlords.
Sorry, I had to do it.
That's right. That's fine. I might as well mispronounce the easy words, eh? Yeah, so like on the planet, the higher up into the atmosphere you went, the more toxic it was, and like the mutants were very resilient to it, so they lived high up. One particular warlord found infant Mortarion down in like a swamp, crawling through like waste and stuff when he first landed, and was impressed that he was able to survive. So took him on as his own son, seeing that he clearly wasn't a normal human, and took him up to a point in the tower where it wouldn't kill him, but he also sort of kept his power level down, if you know what I mean, like kept him subdued a little bit. And eventually Mortarion managed to sort of escape, went down to planet surface level and discovered the actual humans there, seeing them in himself, and realizing that they were like used as experiments. So these mutants were sort of experimenting on them, killing them and practicing like reanimation and torture and all this sort of stuff. And essentially Mortarion developed like an actual hatred for the people that took him in, like hated the fact that they were warlords and they were making like the humans suffer, and also because of the way that they were torturing people like with psychic abilities, it gave him like a natural hatred to psychers as well, which will pay off sort of later on. When he first saw, obviously the humans that saw Mortarion were first quite skeptical of him because he come down another big monster looking guy, but he won their trust when like this rival clan attacked, and he picked up this big farming scythe and started mowing people down with it, and protected his people, and then eventually they took him in, and he sort of began recruiting the strongest, the more toxic, resilient men to his side, and sort of made his own militia down on the planet, and like found the ones who were quite resilient to the toxins. And what they started doing was doing these raids, and taking out like the smaller warlords and stuff like that. And as they were killing these mutants and the warlords, they were sort of uncovering more technology and improving their own army. So pretty much like keeping similar to like the Dusk Raiders, even though they hadn't met, they had like the same sort of theme of the small skirmish raids and just grinding people down. Eventually, the Emperor arrived, and Mortarion was not keen to join him because he saw him as like another sort of tyrant who had this grand scheme for global universe domination and stuff. But the Emperor said, "Look, I'll free the people of Barbarous for you. I'll kill the final warlord, and then you can join me." And this like upset Mortarion because he was pretty much on the verge of victory, and said, like, "You can stick that offer up your arse. I'll do it myself." He climbed to the top of the tower, and basically, as he got to the top level, as he was getting up there, the toxic fumes were so bad and the poison was so bad, like his armor started melting off of him, and he got to the gates of his like adopted father, and like his skin was starting to burn and his eyes were blistering and all this horrible stuff. And as the mutant came out to sort of laugh and finish him off, the Emperor stepped in and killed him, and then saved Mortarion, which on the one hand like really spited Mortarion's like feelings, because although he was probably going to die, that was his death, like his way out and his battle to win or lose, but because obviously being Primarch and just sort of being true to his word, he said, "Yeah, all right, I'll join you." But he never actually, like some of the other Primarchs, loved or really respected the Emperor, because again, like I said, he doesn't like Psychers, he doesn't like warlords, but he stuck to his word and went along for the ride. But always like it was always doomed to sort of fail because of that. There was always these ill feelings towards the Emperor. So as a reward, like as all Primarchs who joined the Emperor, or as they all did, they were all given their own legion, and he was handed the Dusk Raiders. Obviously, they'd been given Mortarian's own gene seed when they were sort of raised as Astartes, and got a natural army already behind him. And then he took his best warriors from Barbarous and gave them the Astartes treatment, and merged the two factions, getting rid of the Dusk Raiders name and calling them the Death Guard, allowing them to keep some of the traditions that they had, but like the color scheme went and some of the more outlandish things went, but they kept there was only 7 companies within, and they kept some of like the older traditions. So if you've read, like we've done Flight of the Eisenstein, and like one example is if you look at Garrow, he was in charge of the 7th company, but he was called the battle captain. So that was just like one little tradition, and he kept a tradition of having a human serf as like as somebody who tried to become Astartes but failed the trials, and instead of being killed was allowed to serve. So the when you get to like if you get to like the Eisenstein stage, you'll see like the divide start happening, and those that are born of Barbarous don't like the Terran born, and there's like this natural divide in the Death Guard from like day one, and this obviously will play out into things later on. Yeah, so that's sort of like the initial inception of the Death Guard. Mortarion took his command, accepted his role, and off they went. He was given as a weapon the Dead Warlord's scythe from the Emperor as like a gift. That was his signature weapon, and from there they sort of went off on their own. They had very little to do with the Emperor. They literally were pushed out to the furthest reaches, slowly but surely, just destroying planets. And unlike a lot of other legions, they didn't stay behind to garrison too often. They would just move on and move on and move on. And because of their natural resilience, they were even used to sort of push out and go to more toxic planets, like Xenos planets, where normal humans and even other Astartes would have a hard time surviving. So they had their specialty, and it's a bit of a precursor to sort of how their destiny was unfolding already, although nobody knew it. So he essentially stopped recruiting from Terra and kept Barbarous as his main Astartes recruiting ground, and obviously swelling those numbers. And as a result of like the battles they were sent on, they became experts in chemical warfare, sort of realizing that not just like sword or bolter would do the trick, and started tallying with like viral bombs, toxic explosives, poisonous gases, and other unconventional warfare. Yeah, so they were often looked down because they were quite ruthless, and like the other Primarchs sort of looked down their nose because they weren't like clean and pristine, and they were just sort of down and dirty and getting on with it. But the Death Guard were proud and rarely suffered a major loss, so they were able to sort of continue unhindered. And he even sent like the Terran-born Astartes, like because obviously there was the divide, into more severe environments, but because they were of Mortarian's gene seed, they were actually quite resilient. So even though the name was dead, the Dusk Raiders still lived in the heart of the Legion anyway, even with like subtle attempts to sort of wean out what the Emperor had given him. So heresy, eventually the Death Guard answered the War Master's summons to join him. Like we said, Mortarion never really loved the Emperor and saw him as a tyrant, and obviously a psyker, so it didn't take too much convincing, I don't think, for Mortarion to side with Horus. And he wasn't fallen to chaos at this point either. Like Obviously, lower ranks, Typhus was quite hand in hand with Erebus, but Mortarion had his own motivation for turning. And I'm pretty sure like Typhus probably did a bit of ear whispering as well to help him along. And like we've said, covered, there's lots of Terran-born Astartes, and the fear was that they were going to be loyal to the Emperor once the plan was unveiled. So as we know, the Istvan campaign went ahead, and pretty much anybody who was suspected of being loyal to the Emperor was sent down to the planet's surface on a bit of a wild goose chase to take out a so-called traitor. I can't remember what the word was, like a traitor colony down there, whatever it was. So you can obviously, as me and Shane are doing, you can read the Horus Heresy and get a bit more. So the short version is Mortarion left his first captain Typhon in charge of this campaign while he was off doing other bits and pieces with the Terranborn down below. And then obviously the World Eaters, Emperor's Children, and the Sons of Horus at the time were down on the planet's surface. So Nathaniel Garrow had been injured in an earlier campaign in the same system, and he was sent off with a small detachment of his men and tasked to remain on a small freighter called the Eisenstein, obviously to just maintain sort of battle lines in space. He didn't realise initially that the ship had been loaded with virus bomb that was going to be launched at the planet and take out his friends. He was sent along with another lovely guy called Grulgor, who was Typhon's right-hand man, and had been ordered to kill Garrow if he sort of twigged the plan. As fate would have it, Sol Tarvitz of the Emperor's Children discovered the plan, and on his way down to warn the Emperor's Children and being friends with Garrow, sort of passed the message on. And Garrow then confronted Grulgar and killed him and his men. They then fled towards Terra to warn the Emperor. Meanwhile, the World Eater bombs detonated on Istvan, killing anybody that was unlucky enough to be out in the open. And the Death Guard, after this finally finished, and after a few months of fighting, that was finished. The Death Guard were then ordered to head to Terra to join the rest of the traitor legions for the big assault on the Emperor. As I've mentioned, Typhus was already fallen to chaos, and like Erebus, was working in the shadows. He had suppressed his psycho powers for many years, even from Mortarion. And whilst they were traveling, he made a deal with Chaos to deliver his legion to them. And whilst they were heading towards Terra, he basically set out a big lie to say that all of the navigators on board were actually loyal to the Emperor and going to betray them, so had them killed, which left them sort of stranded in the warp. And then after a little bit of desperation, Typhus revealed himself to the Emperor and said, look, actually, I have the ability to get us to Terra. And Morty sort of begrudgingly accepted this. And then actually what Typhus did was get them even more lost on purpose, opening the way for Nurgle to put his sticky fingers on the fleet. And what happened from there was all manner of diseases were pushed onto the Death Guard. They were obviously painful, like you can't imagine it, like they're melting faces, infected body parts, bits falling off, rotting away, flies sort of erupting from their bowels and eating their flesh, and even like but nobody could die. Morty even tried to like mercy kill his men, but they just weren't allowed to die, and eventually even Morty was like suffering badly as well, and in the madness, after months, gave himself to Nurgle, made a deal to serve him if he would spare them the pain, and let them either live or die. And obviously Nurgle said, well, you can live, you can fight for me, and you'll be immune to all this sort of stuff that I've put on you, because obviously I love you, I want to help you out. So Mortarion accepted, but in the back of his mind the plan was to eventually defeat Nurgle and free his sons of this horrendous sort of life they'd been given. with the deal made, the now fully deformed and mutilated Death Guard were born anew, and Typhon changed his name to Typhus. And the first time that the Death Guard was seen as Plague Marines was during the Siege of Terror. So you can just imagine, no one's seen the Death Guard for a few months. They're probably, I don't know, because obviously I'm not that far ahead in the books, but I imagine they didn't turn up on time to the siege. But you could just imagine turning around and seeing this fleet arrive. It must have been pretty, like, even the guys on their side were probably a bit shocked when they turned up, and were just sort of dripping pus bags. So anyway, they arrived at Terra, and they were part of quite a successful assault that could have succeeded until, shock spoilers, the Emperor killed Horus, and the retreat was sounded. So the traitor forces in complete disarray retreated, and the Death Guard then pulled back and mounted quite an offensive retreat into the warp, and compared to many other factions, suffered very few losses compared to the other traitors. So like a lot of the other legions sort of scattered amongst themselves, legions broke down and turned on each other, and fighting broke out. But because the Death Guard remained intact for the most part, as a result, when they returned to the warp, Nurgle gave Mortarion the gift of demonhood. So they took shelter in the warp on a planet that Mortarion terraformed to resemble Barbarous, and they spent the next few hundred or a few thousand years in the warp pretty much mainly fighting other chaos armies. They went on for about 9,000 years, and the Death Guard were pretty dominant. It was all territorial, but they pretty much held their own, and they were rarely seen for quite a while in real space. Eventually, Typhus got his own aspirations, but he wanted to become a demon prince. He always felt that maybe he got them to this point, and he should be where Mortarion is, and took his fleet out across the stars, infecting anything and anyone he could find. Mortarion didn't really put up too much of a fight because it was all for Nurgle's plan. There was lots of scores to settle with other legions, and letting Typhus go out and sort of spread this disease and fear was obviously only going to benefit him. Mortarion pretty much remained in the warp, but did emerge every now and then for big battles or when he wanted to scare the living shit out of people. So Typhus, he took the fleet, traveling the universe, spreading their mega STDs and the zombie plague, and at some points actually joined in like with some of Abaddon's Black Crusades. Although Mortarion despises Abaddon, he was cool with it because it's helping spread Nurgle's love. Yeah, so that's pretty much their origin. As far as I've gone through that, there's obviously loads more, but I'm still reading the books. Yeah, and that's the sort of start. So pretty grisly. I think he was always destined to fall, and just like where he landed, I think it was pretty much written that he was always going to end up a bit of a manky boy.
So what actually happened to Barbarous?
I don't know. Probably got destroyed by somebody out of spite, I would imagine.
Probably purged, right?
Yeah.
At some point. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. When I read that bit of lore or that book, I will let you know. But I imagine someone's probably destroyed it by now out of spite. Otherwise, why would he need to rebuild it in the warp?
Just didn't know whether it is because he couldn't actually get to it or whether...
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I would imagine once the heresy kicked in, someone's probably gone there and blown it up and thought that now you can't recruit from there anymore.
It might have gone down as part of the, what do they call it, the Great Scouring that happened after. But I don't know. Yeah,
but it didn't stop. That hasn't stopped, obviously, the Death Guard from recruiting, because like they're in the warp. He's got untold demons coming to him. You've got the odd nutters, like you've got cultists of every sort of chaos faction who want to become Astartes. So you've always got that. they're pretty good at infecting planets and turning people like the old stories of like a pestilence turning up on the planet, driving the people to starvation and madness and all poxes and that, and some desperate soul making a deal with a demon and Nurgle, and then they get in that way and start cultivating. They're like farmers, really. So yeah, maybe they are vegan. Yeah, but then and it's not just like humans that are susceptible. Is that the word?
Yeah.
It's not just humans that can fall. They have got like the AdMech as well. Like there was like they can get into armor and basically rot you away from the inside.
Didn't they make a bunch of orcs Nurgly once?
Yes. You've seen the video as well, haven't
I
you?
have.
So yeah, I watched the what's his name, Voldemort's just done a Death Guard video. He must have known we were doing one, and helped us out. But yeah, like they literally had a war with the orcs, let them sort of retreat or go on their way, but infected them with like plague flies and stuff. And I think they went and was it like Sisters of Battle they went to fight and got down there, and obviously like once they started fighting, these orcs were all swollen and bloated and Nurglified and just started exploding, and all this gore come out and plague flies, and obviously by the time anyone realized what was going on, game over. So that must have been absolutely horrific, because orcs are pretty freaking scary anyway, but then to have them explode and get a face full of maggot as well, much more fun.
Is it just orcs, or is there other xenos that have been nurglied?
Well, obviously, like Tyranids want to eat everybody, but I think the first encounter from Tyranids onto the Death Guard, they had a bite, wasn't to their taste, and then the fleet, obviously, I think they vomited them back up, but the fleet that had arrived and eaten the Death Guard started getting Nurgly, so the main, whatever, the next biggest Tyranid fleet come and just blew them out the sky, because it's like, we don't want any of that.
Yeah,
So,
generally the Terminators can taste the taint.
Yeah.
It's a very strange way of putting it.
Hell yeah.
They don't go in for a bit of chaos.
Yeah. Like, so I mean, I've said it 100 times. I got into Death Guard just by chance. I bought that first battle box that had Marines and Death Guard in it. Yeah, and I'm pretty happy with that. Like, I think I've done all right out of it. It's definitely like kept my interest because of just how gross and different it is as well. There's some cool characters in there.
They're a very, very cool faction.
Yeah.
Oh, as an answer to one of, I think it was David asked the question, Barbara's Dark Angels blew it up.
There we go.
Bastards.
I remembered it from my research from whenever I did the Dark Angels. So I knew they'd done some of the Traitor Legions planets, but I couldn't remember which ones they'd done. I think they might have done the Night Lords one as well, but yeah. Yeah, they blew
Is
it up.
that just something they'd done straight after the heresy? You landed here.
I'm not sure if it was, I can't remember if it was after the heresy or sort of on their way to Terra. I know they went on a bit of campaign and messed up like some of the supply lines and stuff like that on the way to Terra. So it possibly could have done it before that, but they've definitely nuked the entire planet. Yes. But you've got your own little demon world in the in the eye somewhere.
Yeah, you got Nurgle's garden.
Yeah, and obviously, like he's not short of recruitment, like I've just said. Yeah, so he's doing all right. He's got a massive territory in there, and then he just comes out every now and then. He's been like, because he's I think Demon Princes, they need to be in the warp. They can't just stay in real space because I think it drains them every now and then. So he goes back in, obviously buffs up, and then comes back when he's ready to sort of fuck people up again.
He's basically a big demonic Tesla. He needs to go back, have a recharge, come back out.
While he's doing that, you've got Typhus is out there in the Terminus Est, going around like he loves making zombies. So that's his game, isn't it?
What is the size of like the entire sort of Death Guard Legion now?
Massive. Is like they've still because of like being chaos sided and just being so they go out like if they go out with the plague surgeons, obviously quite good at recovering their gene seed, but then when they kill people, like any loyalists, they take that as well. Then they're infecting planets, so they're almost like uncountable, really, because even if they're getting killed, I mean, they're pretty much zombies, so they come back one way or another.
So do they take poxwalkers with them, or do they just make the populous poxwalkers?
I think it's a bit of both, because if they go out and take over a ship with just humans on it, well, they're going to get poxified, crash that ship into a planet, and then there you go, poxwalkers are already there. I think it's not like quite like the game where it's we've brought them with us. They probably infect the planet slowly, and then they send bits and pieces in. It's a bit like a play the slow game, and then once the planet's in a bit of disarray, send the soldiers in.
Okay.
So they've still got like essentially they've got like 7 plague companies, which then are broken down like into 6 or 7 sepsis cohorts, and then each cohort has split down into 2 maledictums, and then there's 7 colonies in each one of those. So like it breaks down, and then I mean they've got untold like Terminator. Like you've got like the armored side. They've all got untold like tallymen there wandering around counting the numbers. I mean, name the like, you can look in the codex, all the different characters. There's not just like one plague surgeon, one tallyman. There's like hundreds of each, because they all go out working on their own. Like the foul blight spawns and putrefiers go out constantly, like they're little mad scientists making up new plagues and sending them out into the world and stuff.
So if Death Guard land on a planet, is that getting nuked, or can they actually be sort of?
I think they're like orcs, aren't they? Because if an orc lands, they're like planting seeds, aren't they? Because they're like
they're fungus.
The fungus. So they spread like that. I would imagine it's the same thing, because you make it bleed, it's going to infect the ground it falls on. So unless you hit it with a flamethrower pretty quick, it's going to seep in, isn't it? Would you take the risk? Because you don't know what it's like.
I know there was the whole thing on. They invaded in the Plague Wars, didn't they? They invaded Ultramar.
Yeah.
But I didn't know whether they just any planet they got to, they just nuked it, or whether they actually managed to fight them off, so to speak.
Well, I mean, I would have thought to be, because you know what it's like with the Inquisition, right? You say the word chaos just in passing, and you're probably going to get killed. So to have like a plague marine wandering around probably isn't going to do your town too much favors. Well, I don't know. There's probably a case like Ultramar's still there, isn't it? So
sadly,
yeah. So there's got to be some cases of you can purge the unclean, but then once it's there, it's like how long till it comes back?
Yeah.
Because there's like 1,000 suns in the Fang somewhere, isn't there? Or on Fenris somewhere, like in what's it called?
The Ragnar
books.
Ragnar trilogy.
Yeah.
They're all the cultists are all underground, aren't they?
So you can never truly get rid of chaos once it's landed, no matter what shape it comes in.
So who do you think you're going to get next, John? Anyway, army-wise, if you have to get your next big model, who are you going to go for?
I don't know, because every time I look, I'm like, oh, I want one of those. I think it's Demon Prince is the one that I saw. It's not too expensive, and they're quite good, like little punchy. Send it up the board. It's got a bit more movement, more strength.
So in the lore with Death Guard, you've got obviously the Demon Primarch, Mortarion, but a Demon Prince, what is that? Is that just the equivalent of like a Bloodthirster, but like the Nurgle sort of?
So essentially, it's like someone who's achieved great deeds, because you could be a plague marine and you just go out being like a complete psychopath killer. You've taken over a whole system, and as a reward for spreading Nurgle's gifts, it's like, oh well, yeah, you're pretty awesome. You can be a demon prince. So I think you just have to be like a hero of the Legion, so to speak.
Yeah.
And get promoted.
And
that
they
way.
get possessed or something, I'm assuming, by like a mix of maybe the Plague Marine and a demon from the Warp, is it? Or
I don't know how it works.
So any chaos faction can have a demon prince, and it is that it's like a, you know, one of your troops, like a sergeant or something like that, that's been granted like not demonhood, but like the demon princehood, as it were, because they get the benefits of psychic powers then as well. So you can have them in chaos armies. The equivalent of a bloodthirster is a great unclean one, which is more of your demon army as opposed to your Death Guard army. Although I think, well, you used to be able to run demons with Death Guard, but I don't know if you can do that in 9th anymore.
You can, but you lose a lot of your.
That's it. You lose the buffs because it's but yeah, the demon prince won't break that because they are effectively, like a captain or a lieutenant that's ascended to demon princehood.
Yeah.
And at the moment, the Games Workshop model. So with a lot of these ones, you tend to find that they can be used in Age of Sigmar as well as 40k.
Yeah.
And as I said, that's why I got my off-brand version of the Demon Prince, because the one that GW sells at the moment it looks all right if it was more of a Khorne Demon Prince, but I don't know whether it works for the other factions. But that's just my taste.
They used to do a metal Nurgle Demon Prince, like a Nurgle specific one, with like a big sort of big hefty slab-sided sword.
Yeah,
and he was awesome looking, but I don't know if you could still get him. But if you're going to take a Demon Prince, it needs to have wings.
Yeah,
because otherwise, sort of like he's just going to trudge up the battlefield. Whereas a Demon Prince with wings is a scary prospect. You just get like a couple of little gargoyle wings or something and stick it on the back of him. Doesn't have to make sense, but he was a really nice model. But I know what you mean, Shane. The Demon Prince works fine for Khorne, maybe Zench as well, depending on what way you paint it.
It's not very Nurgly, that's for sure.
No. But so the other thing I saw, I sent you the picture earlier, Dave, that Nurgly Annihilator. Which looks cool, but I need to
very cool.
Find or get hold of one, and then I want to get like all the Nurgly vehicle upgrades as well.
The Plague Hulk.
Plague Hulk.
Yes, it's a Forge World equivalent of the Defiler. It looks cool. I don't even know if they still do it as well. Plus, it'll cost you a fortune because it's Forge World.
Yeah,
But yeah, have a look at it. It's awesome.
I'll look it up. I'll just get
have a look at it and never get it.
I'll get the normal one and just spray it green. Yeah.
Oh no, it's much better looking.
So like another like cool bit of lore is, I don't know if we covered it before, like the Death Shroud Terminators, who are like Mortarian's right hand men. So like we said, the Death Guard's massive, and he's got all different lords out there running armies and invasions here, there, and everywhere. But it's obviously difficult for Mortarion to stay in control and keep a united legion if he's not there and everyone's so spread out. So the Death Shroud Terminators, they have two jobs. Obviously, the main one is keeping Mortarion protected and hanging about with him. But then he sends them out as his sort of envoys who go with the lords. They stay in the shadows. They're not necessarily part of the battle unless they need to be, but they'll just watch. And if someone starts getting a bit above their station, whether they're, I don't know, sort of doing things on their own or against like knowingly plotting against Mortarion, then the Terminators will arrive and just kill them and put someone else in charge. Just sort of like, it doesn't matter who you are, they're always watching, and they're like the people that you just don't say no to. And if you do, you're not going to survive, because these are obviously the best soldiers in the Legion get recruited up to Terminator form, or Death Shroud Terminators anyway. So they're like secret police that he has working for him, and that's something I don't have yet, which I do want to get, because they're
Nurgle's Gestapo.
Exactly, because they're just obviously like Blight Lord Terminators, but a little bit more violent, I would have thought.
Every time I've seen them in a battle report, they are horrible.
Yeah,
they do.
I don't know how strong they are. Yeah, I don't know how many points they are, but as soon as they get into combat, they just seem to mince everything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many you would take though. Like, cause I've not played them, and I've not.
They come in threes, I think.
Yeah, in a box, but you can have. It says on literally in the codex. It says. I mean, it doesn't really say. So I'd have to put it into the app and just see what the limit is, because normally it says you can have so many when you put it in. But unless I have missed something. But I don't know how many you would need to run to have them effective as bodyguards. I suppose it's like anything. You can just keep pumping them in. I'll just run nothing but Blight Lords and Death Shroud Terminators. Just walk them across the board.
Be fine until you come across Admech again.
Not playing Admech again. That sucks. That was horrible. I mean, I don't think I do the Death Guard justice the way I play, but still learning. Like we said in the last episode, we're still figuring it out. I'm moving on to Ultramarines now, so I'm really screwed. Yeah, but I don't know if you guys sort of have any other Death Guard or Nurgle things you want to add?
Just out of interest, I don't know if you know or not. Where do they? No, yeah, that was quick. No, where do they recruit from, or do they just take like gene seeds out of any other legion and areas they can, sort of thing?
So primarily, like he'll recruit monsters out of the war, because there are still like Death Guard demons, but yeah, like I said, they'll take the gene seed of those that they kill. And take that back home and convert that and mess it up and infect planets as they go along. And people want to give them, like cultists and that, they want to give themselves up. If they can survive, then there's no reason they can't be brought up into.
Yeah, I suppose they don't really mind about the attrition rates either.
No, because
so
if you don't make it, you're just going to be a poxwalker, aren't you, or something worse, like. Get crushed down into become a Nurgling.
Yeah, where are Nurglings from? Like, do we know?
I imagine they come out of the garden of
little demons, or
I would have thought so, because they don't look like a human was telling them. They must have come out of.
I think they're from they are demons or warp beasts. Let's say.
Yeah,
they're birthed from the fat folds of Nurgle.
Nice.
Well, no, actually, that's just my. It's just they seep out like
that's
little
just your
sweat
fantasy.
beads. Yeah. Basically, Nurgle sweats them out.
That's it. It's like he pops a spot and a little Nurgling pops out.
That's enough from Glenn's wank bank for the day, I think.
No worries. Well, you're not liking my tent liking and Nurgling sweating. Fair enough. I'll just sit here and be quiet for the rest of the day.
But I think like the Death Guard, if they landed on Earth, like I think you'd be dead. Like we would just be dead before you even really knew they were around, because they're so pointless.
We'd have masks in a lockdown and be fine.
Oh yeah, we're prepared now.
Yeah, I'm done with jab, mate. I'm fine.
Yeah. Could you imagine? Like, I've been rubbing myself against him all day, and he's just carrying on. Nothing's happened. Got my card. Yeah, but I think like if you just, because obviously they turn up, and just by sort of being too close to you, you're going to start popping out in boils and stuff. pretty grim. So me and you don't stand a chance unless you get elevated to Astartes, and even then, I think they have a hard time getting up close and personal. So I don't know. Yeah. Fancy your chances.
Definitely the rankest legion, that's for sure. Is that they're literally the only legion like that, though, aren't they? I mean, that's what makes them so unique. There's no who else. Is there anyone else that actually follows that path of Nurgle? I mean, not that I can think of. He's just the Death Guard, isn't it? Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, Astartes wise.
Yeah,
you do have like other traitor legions that have, or not traitor legions, traitor chapters that have gone that way. I think the Purge is the most well-known one, but I'm not sure actually now to say that if that's a traitor chapter or if that's a different branch of the Death Guard.
Yeah, because I know there's one, the Mouldering Claw. That's another one.
Yeah,
I think they're Death Guard.
There is a few army names out there, but like I'm not sure if they're sort of successor chapters to the Death Guard or people who have fallen and just gone the way of Nurgle.
Yeah, because I would have thought if you, because people have given themselves up, and then they just become the Death Guard. So I think wherever you were before, you just get wrapped.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, everything the Death Guard is Nurgle. Not everything that is Nurgle is Death Guard. So you know, it's the same as with like I have World Leaders, Cornate, but there's loads of other Chaos chapters, as it were, that are Cornate but have absolutely nothing to do with the World Leaders. You know, there's going to be some out there, but I don't know off the top of my head what the names of the other Nurgle Chaos Marines are.
It's like Slaanesh, though, isn't it? Because you got Emperor's Children. Who else is Slaanesh in Astartes? Is there anybody else? So
again, the names escape me. It's like something host. I know there's a something host.
Are they like a similar sort of thing though, where it's probably just like a successor chapter from them, not like a different legion, if you know what I mean, back in the day?
It's going to be traitor chapters that have fallen to chaos at a later date. It mostly happens with more of the Cornate ones, to be completely honest, because they just go a bit mad. And there's another one that follows Zinch because they hear all the voices and stuff. But I don't know the Nurgle and other one. Slaanesh. One's off the top of my head.
I definitely haven't just looked it up, but the Slaanesh one is the flawless host.
There we go. I knew it was something host.
What do they come from? What were they originally?
So that are called, they are just a heretic Astartes war band that are Slaanesh devoted. So they were not Emperor's Children. They may well have been. Well, they wouldn't have been the successor of Emperor's Children because there were no successors of the traitor legions, because you only got successors after the breakup of the legions. But they would have just been an Astartes chapter that fell, and they happened to fall to Slaanesh.
Because they're not going to
understandable
follow the Codex Astartes, are they? They're just going to be like, well, we'll do what we want. We're unnumbered, and that's why you have the successors for loyalists, because they had to get around the number crunch.
In fairness, though, some of the other traitor legions did have not quite successors, but they had like offshoots and war bands that sort of broken away because of like power struggles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, like, to say the Death Guard, not all of the Death Guard are ever going to fight together. Same as not all of the World Leaders are all together. There's those different little war bands dotted all around the place as well.
Yeah. What would you rather do? Would you rather be a Poxwalker, or would you rather become part of a demon engine and get sucked into that and just be smushed together with a bunch of other people rolling around?
Do Poxwalkers even know that they're a Poxwalker, or are they just basically dead people like as zombies, or are they still in any way alive?
I would have thought it'd be some horrendous like twist of fate that you would still just go on as like a zombie, but some part of you deep down would know what was going on, just as that extra bit of grim dark horror. Like you're still marauding around.
There's no pain. There's not supposed to be any pain though, is there?
I guess not.
A good comparison.
To enjoy it, but
I've always thought is, would you rather be a servitor in the Imperium or a Poxwalker for Chaos? Because they're pretty similar.
You'd rather be a Poxwalker because at least you're loved. Like no one loves a servitor.
I can't argue with that. Well,
love that chap.
You say that, like Dave loves those servitors that are knocking around with Grimaldus.
Yeah.
To answer your question, John, I'd be part of the Demon Engine.
Would you?
That sounds a bit more Slaneshi to be that.
It's like
squished up with a bunch of other bodies. And on that note,
we're all very disturbed. Yeah, but I mean, there's so much else out there. I mean, I haven't even scratched the surface because I'm still reading the Horus Heresy. I want to get to it eventually. Maybe this time next year I might know another 20 minutes worth of lore to talk about. But I thought I'd just do sort of the origin and I mean I think they're cool. Like playing them is fun. Obviously, like we said, if you've seen the last hobby roundup, we've only been playing a little while really. But they've got like the good abilities and they're hard to kill. I just need some more units, learn to play the game a little bit more tactically, and not play AdMech again.
Or World Eaters.
Or World Eaters. No, because the World Eaters, I enjoyed that game. I just I got suckered into your little plan, Glenn.
Well, run forward and hit you.
Yeah, and not realising you can hit me twice. That was horrible.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. So unless anyone's got sort of anything else, I haven't really got anything else prepared.
No, that's good, mate.
Yeah, I'm glad.
No, thanks.
Hope I haven't bored you all too much.
No more than usual.
Good. And I can see you're still awake, so it wasn't too bad.
No, it's good, mate. Very informative. Well done.
All right, so that's pretty much all I've got. Sorry if you was expecting a bit more in depth. We will get there eventually. So like we've said, please do check us out on social media. Come check us out on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. If you like the video and you're watching along with us, then give us a like, share the video with your friends, and please do subscribe to the channel. Obviously, we're available on all good podcast services, so you can come listen to the other podcasts where the guys have gone through their own legions with a bit more expertise than I have.
No way.
And then we're all learning together. It's good fun. And then check us out. We've got Twitch. I've played a few games of Space Marine. We'll get some more stuff going on there in the future. If you want to support the channel and help us get some better equipment and improve ourselves, then we do have a Patreon. Or if you need your hobby supplies and you like saving money, use our link in the description and head over to Element Games. And any money we do receive will go straight back into the channel and improving things. And then if you want to play some combat cards, come join our clan, Iron and Ceramite. Just give us a Google. Iron and Ceramite will pop up all over the place. And on the grisly fort of David and Demon Engine, we will call Exterminators on this episode.
As always, we would like to thank you for listening to our Iron and Ceramite podcast. If you liked us, then you can also find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and any other good podcast services. Just remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
someone else can do the episode intro. You know what I mean? Like what I always do.
It's gonna sound very weird coming from someone else.
I know, but otherwise I'm going to be like, "Welcome to the podcast. I'm joined by blah 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 blah," and I'm going to be talking for the next hour. I don't know.
I don't mind. I don't mind doing it.
I've already forgotten. Right, so there we go. Yeah, so good start. Yeah. All over the place. And on the grisly fault of Demon Engine, we will call Exterminators on this episode.
It's a beautiful thought. Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Rank, absolutely rank.
Yeah.
Just with his face at the front, you could imagine it, couldn't you? Like,
popping out the arse. The question is, what do we talk about next week?